Hi guys. So today I'm gonna show you how to make a coffee cake. Um, this is something a client of mine ordered. She wanted it in rectangle shape and she wanted a bento cake. So I've already preheated my oven. Here I'm just lining the cake pan with neutral oil and cake flour. And then we are gonna move on to separating the eggs from the egg whites from the egg yolk. Funny thing, I already have an egg separator, but I just don't like using it. I don't know why. Like I feel like it's too much work. But anyway, we're gonna start whipping this on high speed until it forms bubbles and some soft peaks. And once that happens, you'll be able to tell. Once that happens, we're gonna add in like a quarter cup of sugar. I'm eyeballing as usual. Don't eyeball. Quarter cup of sugar goes in there, and then we're gonna continue whisking until it forms soft peaks. Those are soft peaks that you can see right there. It's sort of runny. We're gonna add another quarter cup of sugar, and then we're gonna continue whipping it for about a minute or two. Right here, it's starting to take shape. It's forming stiff peaks. We add the last quarter cup of sugar and continue whipping it for another 1 to 2 minutes until it forms very stiff peaks. Once the stiff peaks are formed, you'll know because as you can see, it will not get off the container. You know, it's that's the consistency you're looking for because it's not runny and it's not gonna pour or anything like that. Then I took my Onja margarine. I love this margarine better than anything I've ever used in baking. I prefer it to Prestige, to Blue Band, to butter. I love it. It's really good. We're going to take some of it and put it in the bowl that already has the separated egg yolks. My client doesn't love a lot of sugar. She was very specific about that. So I was sure to use half a cup and a quarter. So that it doesn't become too sugary because she was very, very clear about that. So after we put in the sugar with the egg yolks, we are gonna go in with vanilla. Oops, it was almost finishing, so I just put what was left in the mixing bowl. You can use a stand mixer or a hand mixer to do the creaming method. You can also use your hand, but you'll get tired. So for me, I took my hand mixer and I started working on what was in the bowl, all the ingredients. And then you have to scrape the sides and just make sure everything is in there because as you whisk, it splatters all over. So just make sure you scrape the sides. And this is the consistency you're looking for in the end. Very creamy. Makes your cakes super moist. Next, I took my 3-in-1 Nescafe Creamy White. I used 2 sachets for this particular recipe. And after pouring them in the empty container, what I do next is I take my warm milk. It shouldn't be too hot, should be warm to the touch. Pour it in the container that has the coffee, and then just stir it so everything can come together and is well combined. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure it's mixed up a little bit because either way you're gonna whisk it when you put it in the dry ingredients as you make the cake batter. So set that aside and then take your cake flour. I prefer using self-raising flour, by the way, to make cakes. I don't like that whole thing for uh but all purpose. I don't. So once you put the flour in, you take the coffee mixture that you made earlier and just pour it in with the flour. And then use your spatula. Remember, I told you if you don't use your spatula first, if you're using a hand mixer, the flour is gonna go everywhere and it's really messy. So just make sure it's well combined with your spatula before you bring in the hand mixer. Always remember, don't over don't over whip Don't over mix because it will form a dome. You don't want a dome. You really don't want a dome on your cake. It's very annoying. You just whisk it a little bit and that's it. You're done. You won't need the whisk again. In this particular, this is where now you introduce the egg whites that you had done earlier. So you just put the egg whites in there. Don't stir the mixture. Don't stir it. Fold it gently, but as quick as possible. So using your spatula, fold it as you scrape the sides. And then once you start folding midway, you take the cake batter that you've been folding in and pour it to the other container that has the remainder of the egg whites. So just pour that in, not all of it, just a little bit. And then once that's done, you'll also continue folding it gently but as quickly as possible. And then take that butter and pour it back into the other butter that remained in the other mixing bowl. I know it's a lot of work, but trust me, you love the result in the end. Once that's all mixed up and no egg whites are visible, you will take your lined cake pan, the one you had done in the beginning, and you're just gonna pour in the cake batter that you've already finished doing. So just pour that in until probably 2/3 of the pan. Some people might not like using foil, so do 2/3 of the pan. And then once you've done that, just tap the pan on the counter to remove any air bubbles. This step is very, very important, so make sure you don't skip it. After that, we are going to take the foiling paper and cover the tops. In the previous video, I told you why I do this. It's because I don't like my cake rising and forming a dome. And sometimes the cake bakes faster on the sides than in the middle. And then you find on the top, like it's well cooked, it's browning quickly, but then in the middle, it's still wet, you know? So this is why I use foiling paper to cover the top and put it in the oven. I prefer flat tops all the time. So yeah, that's done. So here the cakes have finished baking. I put them in the oven for about 15 minutes at 180 degrees. As you can see, it just comes out easy and it's still warm to the touch. So this is how they came out. As you can see, they're very soft. They have a flat top. They're very jiggly. It means that is a very super moist cake. So the next step, I don't wrap my cakes in cling film at all. I don't like it. I don't freeze my cakes. I don't put them in the fridge at all. So we're just gonna take like a baking pepper and we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of sugar. The sugar and the baking pepper um is for retaining the moist in the cake, you know, because I'm gonna leave them outside to cool completely before I start icing them. So this is why I'm putting a little bit of sugar on the baking pepper. So at this stage is where we turn the cakes upside down, leaving them in their respective tins. Don't remove the tins. Just flip them upside down and let them be for about an hour for them to completely cool down before now you start separating your cake. Now we're gonna move to making the whipping cream for this particular cake. I'm using Pristine. I never put my Pristine in the fridge at all. It's always room temperature. In the bowl, there's a little bit of whipping cream. That is always my starting point because I don't freeze my whipping cream. And then I will put in the other sachet of the creamy white coffee. At this stage is where I introduce it to the mixture. So I'm just gonna pour that in. And then after I've put that in the mixing bowl with the whipping cream, I'm gonna start whisking it on high speed. I love whisking my whipping cream on high speed because it saves me a lot of time. Instead of starting low, medium, high, I just do high speed. So this is where I'm just mixing the whipping cream with the coffee. And I'm gonna mix this until it forms some sort of soft peaks. And here is when I stop mixing it, set the mixer to the side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add in some icing sugar. The icing sugar is to stabilize the whipped cream so that it doesn't melt quickly. Yeah, and even when you walk in the sun, it doesn't melt that easily because the icing sugar stabilizes this whipping cream. So I'm just going to scrape the sides of my spatula, and then I'm going to start with whipping the combination of the icing sugar, or what we call powdered sugar, and the whipping cream. So I'm gonna do this for at least 2 minutes nonstop on high speed, and then I'm going to stop and scrape the sides. Don't forget to scrape the sides. You don't want to put anything to waste. So just make sure everything is in there and you can be able to whisk all of it together. So that's what I did right there. And then I'm going to continue whipping it on high speed. I'll whip it until I get the consistency that I want, which is a stable whipping cream that I can use for filling the cakes or frosting the cakes, you know, and decorating it. This is a stable whipping cream that I'm whipping here. As you can see, the color is coffee-like, probably like a milky kind of coffee. And I got that by accident. I didn't plan. I think because I mixed the coffee powder with the pink whipping cream and white whipping cream. It gave me this color, of which I love because that's the color the client wanted anyway. And I was just wondering how I'm going to get it. So yeah, so there we have it. The whipping cream, I've already finished whipping it. And again, I'm scraping the sides just to ensure everything is in there and is whipped up properly. And as from the video, you can tell the whipping cream is coming together. Again, I don't put my whipping cream in the fridge. I don't. I open it and I leave it on the counter. So this thing of people telling you, oh, you have to freeze this, freeze, it's a lie. Because here is proof that you don't need to put your whipping cream in the fridge, okay? Or in the freezer, whatever. So here I am, I'm whipping it for the third time after scraping the sides, and I'm just ensuring that it's on high speed, and I continue whipping it for around another 2 minutes, checking the consistency, making sure that I don't over whip it, because if you over whip, it's gonna split and it's gonna start turning into you making batter in the process. So yeah, as you can see, the whipping cream is done. It's doesn't get off the ball. It's right there. Your proof is right there. I didn't freeze it, no nothing. Room temperature whipping cream, and yeah, it's gonna wait for me to now frost the cakes.